Welcome to AutoScoop. I'm Adam Goldfein. We are going to be talking about something that is dear to everybody's heart, and that is personal injury. What happens when you get into an accident? It doesn't just have to be a car accident. It could be a truck, a motorcycle. It could be something at work, maybe even at home or someone else's home. We're going to talk about it, but not just any type of injury. We're going to talk about how you determine whether or not you've got a great case. Do you have a case that can go to trial? Do you have a case where you're entitled to damages? You're going to learn all about it here on AutoScoop, because AutoScoop starts right now.
Welcome to AutoScoop. It's everything you need to know about car buying. And here's your host, Adam Goldfein.
Welcome back to AutoScoop. I'm Adam Goldfein. Thanks so much for joining us. I am excited about talking about this topic because it affects people on a very personal nature. And we're talking about pain and suffering and things that happen when it's unexpected. You get up, you have your frosted flakes, everything is great, you kiss your wife goodbye, and unknowns to you that during that day something terrible or tragic may happen to someone that you love or possibly yourself, and what do you do about it? And I'm being joined today by one of Atlanta's top personal injury attorneys, Richard Griffin. Richard, welcome back to the show. It's nice to have you on, and I love having you on kind of like every so often to update us on what's going on and help all the viewers with what they do. And I think that determining what makes a great case is a better topic than just saying, well, what do you do in the event of an auto accident?
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and certainly this is near and dear to my heart. This has been my passion for my entire professional career for 15 years, is helping injured victims, and it's something that I tend to really put myself into, and my firm does as well. We make sure that we do everything we can to get people fully compensated. I really put myself into it as if it were my wife or one of my 4 children, right. And that it becomes an emotional commitment to my clients at that point.
Well, what I want to do today is not only what makes a great case, but I want you to help me also on the counter side of what hurts your case. Okay, so I want you to help us bring out, because there are things that I think people can do out there that help them make more in damages, right, like recover more, and there are things that they could probably do that limit the amount of damages they recover.
Absolutely. And what you do at the accident scene is the first step,
okay.
Because you're going to have to make sure that you're going to be able to establish liability, which means that you've got to prove that the other driver was at fault in the accident. If you can't prove that, then it doesn't matter how injured you are, you wouldn't be able to be entitled to any recovery.
Okay, we're going to talk about making a great case in the event that you are injured. We're talking to Richard Griffin, who is one of Atlanta's top personal injury attorneys here on AutoScoop. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll help you determine whether or not you or someone you love has a great case. Welcome back to AutoScoop. I'm Adam Goldfein. We are being joined by one of Atlanta's top personal injury attorneys, Richard Griffin, to talk about what happens in the event that you or someone you love is injured. And when we refer to injuries and determining whether or not somebody has a great case, Richard, we're not necessarily limiting the conversation just to car crashes, are we?
That's absolutely correct. Basically, any kind of injury, for a personal injury claim, all you have to have is an injury due to the negligence of someone else. It could be a car wreck, or it could also be a slip and fall in a store or at someone's home. One of the largest cases I ever had involved a refrigerator that was improperly installed and actually toppled over when the heavy door was opened, and it crushed a lady against a granite countertop, and we had catastrophic injuries, and we had a $2.5 million verdict.
And that was just from a refrigerator falling on this woman?
That's correct. It was.
Because normally you would think that if you're in your own home, you don't get, you know, any damages. If I trip in my garage, I'm on my own. But I guess it becomes a question of fact. Why did I trip?
Exactly.
Right?
Everything is going to be based on the facts of your case. That's why it's very important to call so that we can discuss the specific facts of your case, because each person's case is different, and the facts will determine whether or not you have an injury that is not due to anyone's negligence, or whether you have an injury that is due to someone's negligence where you could have a personal injury recovery. Also, we handle workers' compensation, where that does not require any negligence at all. If you are hurt while you're doing your job duties, then if your company has at least 3 employees, you're going to have a workers' compensation claim most of the time. That's very fact-specific as well. But if you're doing something for the benefit of the employer and you're injured, then you're going to be covered in a way that takes care of your medical bills, your lost wages, and your permanent impairment.
All right, so let's kind of back up for a second, all right? We're talking about if you're injured in a car accident, if you're on a motorcycle, if you're riding a bicycle, if you're at someone's home, if you're doing something and you get injured by the negligence of someone else, you may be entitled to damages, right? And we'll go into the types of damages and what determines the size of your damages. But also, interestingly, when you say at work for the benefit of the employer, I want you to clarify that a little more for me, because does it mean I have to be sitting in my cube? Or could I be at a company event? Let's say we're having cocktails or a picnic. Does that count? Is that covered under workers' comp?
Those kind of cases are also very, very fact specific. But if the example is that someone is at a softball event that's sponsored by the employer, it's not mandatory, but it's recommended. A lot of those cases have been found to be compensable workers' comp cases because you are basically there for the morale of the company.
And if I'm driving, to deliver something for the benefit of my employer and we get into a car accident, I might have both.
That's exactly correct. You are going to have both if you are doing a company purpose, if you're on an errand for the business.
Right.
Traveling salesmen, they basically, if you're out of town at a conference, you're going to be covered during your entire trip as long as you're within a certain radius of your hotel, for example. The case laws are very, very specific. If you begin to venture off too far from where the conference site is, then a lot of times it's not a compensable. You've gone on your own personal errand. But if you are there for the purpose of the conference and that's for the benefit of the employer, then you would have a compensable claim.
Folks at home are going to be sitting there saying, why are we talking about damages, in today's economy? Aren't you just kind of gold digging a little bit? Why do you think that you're entitled to money? You're just trying to get a windfall?
Well, it really isn't that. If anything, you need to hire an attorney to make sure that you get paid what you are due. I mean, it is just compensating you for what the law allows you to recover for. And a lot of times people will be afraid, they'll say, well, I don't want to get an attorney involved until I feel like the adjuster's done me wrong, where it seems like things are going wrong. Well, the problem is the case can get off track early on, and the value of the case can be dropping, and it can be much harder for an experienced attorney even to get that back on track where you're going to get fully recovered.
So getting an attorney involved sooner is actually one of the things that you can do to not only determine if your case is worth more money, but to ensure that you get the most compensation or the most reimbursement for your damages, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For example, one of the things that I make sure of is that, first of all, the investigation's done where we can prove damages, we can prove liability, that the negligent party was there. The next thing is, they're going to have issues if they're in a car wreck, for example, property damage issues. If it's a total loss, how do you get the fair market value for the car? We help them with that. If there's a diminished value, if it's not totaled and the car is worth less because of the damage to the car, a diminished value claim, we help with that. If they choose to,
you would do all that for them, because a lot of
would.
attorneys do the old Heisman when it comes to property damage. Why do you do that? Why do you get involved in property damage?
Well, we really do want to try to help them from the beginning of the case to the end of the case. We want to make sure that you can take some things off your plate and put them on mine. Let me take care of it so that they'll work out the right way and you don't have to worry about them.
Right.
It doesn't cost anything to call me. We can have a free consultation. You don't pay anything when you hire me. You only pay on these type of personal injury, workers' compensation, or Social Security disability cases if there's a recovery.
As we're going today, if somebody's watching the show and they want to actually call, could they call and talk to you?
They absolutely can.
All
They
right.
can call me, and you can also visit my website. You can email me. On the website, there's some places you can send me your legal questions. I will respond to every email and every call.
All right, so there's no fee required. So if anyone's watching and they're saying, I got a question, is my case worth anything? And I think what's important is I want to go through different types of cases and different gravity of the case, okay? Because there will be people that will say, I just got hit in the rear, and, I got whipped a little bit, but no big deal. I didn't see any blood. Do I have a potential case? All the way through, I had some broken bones or, God forbid, something terrible happened. So we have this wide spectrum, and I think it's important for folks to determine whether or not they actually should be compensated, and then what the types of compensation are. Is it just limited to lost wages, or are there other types of monies that the person is entitled to, and can you help them recover that? Because you've already mentioned property damage, which I don't think a lot of people think a personal injury attorney would help you with your total, or diminished value. We've talked about diminished value many times in the past. If you haven't gotten diminished value, if your attorney is not getting it for you, you're really getting shortchanged. And trust me, The insurance carriers are only going to pay you on a formula, and you're only going to get pennies on the dollar.